Hey everyone, and welcome back to Life as a Law Student. Today I am going to be making some cupcakes in preparation for Thanksgiving and telling you all about the Wrongful Conviction Clinic. There are a couple things in this video you may have heard in other of my videos throughout the semester, but I'm compiling them all and adding some more info so that you can get a full review of what my time in the clinic was like this year. The oven's preheating and I have everything I need to make some delicious chocolate cupcakes, so let's get going. I don't have regular cupcake pans, I just have these mini ones, so we're gonna have a lot of cupcakes. I think this mix makes 24 normal size cupcakes, so I'm just gonna prep all of these. I think I have 5 of them. I also don't have any paper baking cups for these, so just going really heavy with the olive oil spray. All right, we need a cup of water, half a cup of oil, and 3 eggs. So let's start from the beginning, shall we? I have done 2 clinics throughout my time at WashU. The first was the prosecution clinic, which I did last spring. That was through the St. Louis City Circuit Attorney's Office. I had a really good time and I learned a lot. Unfortunately, literally no trials happened at all because of the pandemic until I think my last week in the office. So I didn't have the opportunity to participate in any of those. This semester, my original plan was to go to Italy and not be in a clinic at all. That's obviously not what happened, again, because of you know what. And so my backup plan was to be in the public defender's clinic in the same city office. For some reason though, the public defender's clinic was only being offered in the spring, which wasn't going to be an option for me since I am externing in Maricopa County in Phoenix, Arizona, next semester. So I had to pick something else to do this semester. To be clear, nobody was making me do a clinic at all. That's just something that I've really prioritized throughout my time in law school. I think practical experience is impossible to be overrated. In my opinion, for government work, it's so much more important to have as much time in the courtroom and in actual DA's offices or public defender's offices than spend time on a journal or be at the top 5% of the class or what have you. So this is really a priority for me and I wanted to make sure that I could maximize the opportunity, especially at WashU, which has so many clinics, all of which are taught by really cool people and give you really good opportunities. So because the public defender's office wasn't an option, I wanted to do something that was sort of representative of the other side of the criminal justice system from what I will be doing as a prosecutor. I thought that the Wrongful Conviction Clinic sounded really cool, especially once I learned that it meant that I was going to be working with the Midwest Innocence Project. We are also partnered up with the MacArthur Justice Center here in St. Louis. That's probably actually our most primary professor, but most of the work that I've done is with the Innocence Project. The Midwest Innocence Project serves, I think, 5 states in the Midwest, and it's specifically focused on helping people who have been wrongfully convicted. Not in the sense that they had a procedural default somewhere in the course of the investigation or their original trial, but in the sense that they are actually innocent of the crimes for which they've been convicted. My clinic directors and lots of other people have asked me how I feel as a future prosecutor working with people who have been wrongfully convicted, often because of prosecutorial misconduct. And to me, it doesn't dissuade me at all from being involved with a prosecutor's office. In fact, it makes me actually even more excited and passionate about that work. I think it's so important to have people in the prosecutor's office who are going to take responsibility for the mistakes that they could have intentionally or completely unintentionally made. In some states, the only way for a person to be released or exonerated after wrongful conviction is for the prosecutor to get on board and say like, hey, our office messed this up. This person is not guilty and should be released. That's actually what happened in the Kevin Strickland case, which actually we just got news today, like 2 hours before I'm filming this video, that he has been exonerated. And it is so exciting because even though honestly, it's hard to say I did any work on his case. I basically did none, but I went to his hearing. You can look that news story up right now. I just went to the hearing a couple weeks ago. Mr. Strickland has been in prison for over 43 years for a crime that he did not commit. And it was really difficult for him to even get a court to hear his case because there just wasn't a statute in place that would give him anything to talk about, really. Like, you could get into court on a gateway innocence claim. But as I understand it, he didn't have any specific procedural default that he could point to at his trial that would warrant overturning the conviction. A new statute in the summer gave a prosecutor the power to represent, in a way, the interests of the wrongfully convicted person and take it to the court and say, like, hey, look at all this evidence that this person is innocent. It should undermine the court's faith in the integrity of the original conviction and the jury's verdict. Amazingly, and against a lot of odds, that's what happened in Mr. Strickland's case, and it's what everyone should hope would happen in every wrongfully convicted person's case. Just a lot of people in there for literally no reason. And so it's really amazing to play even just the most minuscule of roles in seeing somebody released this semester. Mr. Strickland's case, though, is not one that I've been heavily involved with compared to the other cases that I have been involved with. I'm not sure how many details that I'm allowed to get into, but I'm pretty sure that I can tell you that one of them is another case that we are going through the courts just like Mr. Strickland and trying to get him released for something he didn't do almost 2 decades ago. At the same time, that client is also coming up for parole because of another new statute that was passed over the summer. And his parole hearing is in January, so I won't be here for that, but I have done a lot of work in prepping for that hearing, and hopefully he will also be released while he's waiting for his exoneration. There's one other client that I've been heavily involved with, and this client, also believed to be wrongfully incarcerated, also believed to be actually innocent of the crimes for which he was convicted, unfortunately has exhausted his options in the courts. There's just not the required evidence for him to prove his innocence because it was never collected by the police in the first place, or it was not preserved for it to be tested given new scientific standards. So that client is actually going through the process of appealing for clemency or a pardon by the governor of the state in which he's incarcerated. That process is incredibly inefficient and frustrating, especially because it's very political, right? You don't have an obligation as a governor to read all of the court evidence and call witnesses to the stand or anything like that. You just decide based on if you're up for re-election, if people will like the decision that you're making. And in my opinion, that's a really crappy thing to have to depend on to get justice. But that is the reality for a lot of people, including this client. So I've been doing my absolute best to prepare his petition in a way that is persuasive, hopefully, to those that read it, and honest about the ways in which he has become a very different person than the person he was when he went into jail. Not in the sense that he was a criminal when he went into jail because he was innocent of the crime for which he was convicted, but in the sense that everybody grows and changes, and who he is now is a person that should be in society, that would be a benefit to his community. My next step in that process that I'm going to be working on before the semester finishes up is gathering, hopefully, letters of support from people either in politics or in the community that he'll go into, from leaders in his religion, from people who have worked with him in prison. Just doing our best to really show whoever reads this petition that this is a good guy who we don't need to be afraid of releasing. So I hope that I'm conveying that the work of this clinic has been really interesting and probably the most important work that I've ever done, like with real, actual impact on people's lives. The setup of the clinic, I think, could be better. We were all significantly behind in hours for more than the first half of the semester because we just had a late start. I think our directors were more used to having longer periods of time with students in other clinics that they've done. This is the first year at our school that they've done the clinic, but they've been involved in other schools before. And I believe that in the past it's been a year-long clinic, so there was more time for things to ramp up and students to learn as they went. Here, when you only have 4 months and you gotta figure out this whole new appeals process, what does actual innocence mean? How do we find justice for this person, either through the courts or through parole or through clemency or whatever it is? It's a lot to figure out while you are actively engaged in hopefully effective advocacy. And so I think our directors wanted us to learn a lot before we got going, but we just didn't have the time to not get going. I've carefully curated my schedule throughout law school to graduate with just enough credits but not do a bunch of unnecessary work. So I really need the credits that I'm relying on for this clinic. I'm okay on hours now. I actually am ahead by, I think, a week or so. But that's only because I was able to make room in my schedule to travel to 2 different hearing observations, one for Mr. Strickland and another one in Iowa. I wasn't involved in that case at all. I literally just went to watch, and we are still awaiting results on that hearing. I think it'll be a couple months. But anyway, it was only because I could make time in my schedule to do that that I was able to rack up a significant amount of hours for the travel time and the time away from home and whatever research we did do for those projects while we were gone. I think if you had a busier semester or just a more spread out class schedule, that wouldn't have been possible, and I still would have been concerned about hours. My other classmates and I have had to be really proactive in asking for work, and that's something that I'm used to doing in a lot of my internships, but obviously it's ideal when you don't have to do that and people just give you the work anyway. I will say though, the clinic directors are absolutely amazing. I hope that they will continue to serve as references and networking professionals and friends of mine in the future. I think that we've done a lot of really good work together, and it seems like they've been really impressed with me and my 3 classmates and the work that we've been able to do for their clients. It's funny, by the time that I graduate, I'll have had 6 internship experiences, which is, double what the normal person has, if not triple. But I have yet to actually talk in a courtroom, which is all that I want to do, either because I was too young to do so, or again, because of world events outside of my control. But I think that the 2 most helpful experiences by far have been my 2 clinics at WashU. I don't know yet about the externship in the spring. I have really high hopes, but it hasn't started yet. So far out of my 2 summers, my 1 pre-law school internship with the LA District Attorney's Office, and my 2 clinics with the St. Louis City Attorney's Office and the Midwest Innocence Project, the 2 clinics have by far been the best learning experiences. Those are the people that I'm calling for references when I'm doing my character and fitness application next year. Those are the people I'm gonna be looking for jobs through, hopefully. We'll see. I think that they have firmly established in me just a sense of passion for this job and the meaning and purpose behind it, that it really does have such a great effect on people's lives. And not necessarily great as in like awesome, but great as in large and important. And that's what I want to do. There are lots of tasks that I enjoy, but very few things that I just feel make my life meaningful. Like for example, I have done really rote data entry, substitute teacher, book cataloging, medical record conversion sort of tasks in the past, just as, whatever, give me a paycheck jobs. And a lot of those I didn't hate at all. I'd pop my headphones in and listen to an audiobook and do something mindless for a couple hours, and it was actually kind of relaxing. But I don't think that I could spend my life doing that, and this is not at all an indictment of people who do. Obviously, we need people to do those tasks. It makes the world go round and other people's jobs and lives a lot easier. But I've always felt like I want to be involved with something that has a more direct impact, you know? I don't have too much else to say about that, and I'm running out of batter, so I'm gonna put these things in the oven and we'll get on making some frosting. My cupcakes are done. They are not the prettiest things I've ever made in the world, but I do think that they're gonna taste delicious. Actually, I know that they taste delicious because I already had one. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have more questions about the clinic or clinics in general or law school in general, hit me up in the comments below. Like this video if you want to see more just like it, and subscribe so that you don't miss any in the future, including the one that I will post next Saturday. I will see you guys then, and until then, God bless.